Hello friends, Chad Ricardo of the Ricardo Report, and this is a DKN Sports Special. Joining me today, I have the lovely Miss Natalie Randolph. Natalie, thank you so very much for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now listen, I gotta tell you, you and I, we're basically like the same age, but you make me feel a little self-conscious. You've accomplished so much thus far in your life. How have you been able to reach all of these high levels that you have thus far?
Like I tell the kids, just putting one foot in front of the other, take every opportunity that comes and make the most of it and keep going to the next. So it's not really something I think about.
I want to start kind of at the beginning here. You are a young lady that was born and raised here in the Washington, D.C. area. You graduated high school here. In what ways has being a native of the district laid the groundwork for the successes that you've come to?
I think part of it is, you know, I did grow up in the city, so anytime you're from the city that you serve, it makes things a lot easier. I've lived through, you know, many of the events that we've had here in DC, so when starting teaching, I was able to relate to the kids in that way.
Yes.
And, you know, it gives you more of a vested interest in what you're doing. I wanted to give back. I wanted to make sure I, you know, did well for these kids and make sure they have every opportunity that they could possibly dream of, same way my parents did for me.
Upon graduating from Sidwell, friends, one of those steps in that maturation process is you headed out to the University of Virginia. You're a student athlete and a track star. I attended James Madison University myself. I know that the area is a little different. There's not quite as much diversity in Charlottesville as there is DC. How were you able to adjust, acclimate, and ultimately thrive in that atmosphere?
Just keeping my eye on what my goal was, you know, not trying to worry about the noise. My parents kept me very grounded in that sense, especially in terms of racial and cultural things. You know,
that's big there.
It's
big there.
Yep. And just treat everybody like a person and not try to focus on any differences they may have other than celebrating those differences, and do what you got to do, no matter what. I mean, you know things are going to be difficult because of who you are and what you are, and that's just the way it is. There's nothing you can do about it other than overcome.
And those questions are major because so many student athletes leave the district, thousands each year, and they go off to smaller towns, and they have to deal with things just like that. Now, upon graduating from the University of Virginia, you came back home here to the district. You switched up sports on us. You tackled a new challenge. You went from track and on to football, the DC Divas. At that point, had you played organized football before?
No.
How'd you get into it?
I had always loved football. I would sit in my dorm room and watch football on Saturdays and watch football on Sundays. So I always had an interest in football. And then, and in high school, I actually wanted to play. My father told me no, not because he didn't think I could do it, but because it was my senior year, and he was like, "You're going to run track. Like you might get hurt." So when he actually was a physical therapist in the area and treated some of my diva teammates. And so he was like, "Oh, well, I met this woman that plays football." And I was like, "Really?" He was like, "Yeah, they invited us to a game to just come and see." And when I saw it, I was like, "I want to play."
Wow.
I want to play now. Like, how do I play? So that's what started it.
And so tell me that story there. I mean, again, then you go out, you hadn't done it before.
No.
What was it like?
It was crazy. Like I could not catch. I really couldn't do anything other than run. So I had to learn all of those things. And then once I figured out how to catch, I could not stay on my feet once I caught the ball. So there's a lot of learning going on. But it was so much fun, and I eventually discovered hitting other people.
Wow. And stress relief.
Yes.
There we go.
And it was just the most amazing thing I've ever experienced in my life. And so I was put on the kickoff team.
Yes.
I was a gunner, and that was my favorite thing. I didn't care like what we did as receivers. I was like, "We scored? Yes, let's go."
There we go. There we go.
So it was amazing. It was 6 years of great fun and great team, and it was awesome.
Now, just like everything else, you did excel. Like you said, you played the sport for 6 years. When you look back at that time now, what did you learn while on that team, that experience, that would ultimately help you in your next step, which was coaching?
I learned how people best taught me the game, and I was able to learn the game from scratch, which I think is helpful when coaching young kids who are just starting football, but a lot of coaches tend to assume that they know things when they don't. So being able to have learned the game from scratch, it was more fresh in my mind. Okay, this is what I need to teach. This is how I need to get this point across to this kid. And just the coaches that we had. You know, we had some great coaches when I was playing, so I benefited a lot from them.
That is amazing. I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to get into the head coaching years of Natalie Randolph, Chad Ricardo. This is the Ricardo Report, a DKN Sports Special. Chad Ricardo and I have the pleasure and honor of being joined here by Natalie Randolph. Natalie, we were just speaking about your time at the DC Divas, but of course, like we said, you didn't stop at just playing football. You moved on to coach. You began out there at HD Woodson as an assistant coach. I know that it was some years ago, but if you can think back to this, what was your first day like when you stepped out there on the field?
Well, Coach Fuller kind of tricked me into
He's a good man.
He's a great man, and you know, I appreciate everything that he did for me. It wouldn't have been, you know, without him, none of this would have happened. But he asked me to help out on the team, and I assumed that meant hydration or statistics or something of that matter. And then first day of practice, he said, well, this is your new receivers coach. And I looked behind me and noticed that it was just the wall, and then realized, well, I guess this is what he meant. And so that was it. That was the first day of practice. But the kids were great. I mean, they were hungry for knowledge, so I was able to teach them what I had learned, and good to go.
Some of the, got love for all of the student athletes out there, but the kids at HD Woodson hold a very special place in my heart. I feel as though they do so much to embody the community that surrounds them. They play for more than just the game, if you know what I'm saying.
Yes.
Did you experience that when you were there?
Oh yeah, I mean, HD is a family. You know, I taught there for 3 years.
Correct.
And we were the Tower of Power. I was there when it was a tower.
Yes.
So I did not experience the new brand spanking new wonderful place that they have now. So we did have an extreme sense of community. I mean, they still are in my heart, you know, and it's great going back to the games now and seeing people that I knew then and know that part of that family is still intact. So you're right, it's a very special place, and I enjoyed it.
I agree with you. Couldn't agree with you more. March 12th, 2010.
Oh, Lord.
That's the day that you were named the head coach out there at Coolidge. Beyond that, former Mayor Fenty named that Natalie Randolph Day.
Yes, he did.
When we look back at that time, at that moment in time, did you realize then what that hiring would mean to female student athletes moving forward? And what are your thoughts on that now?
No, I did not. I knew that it would be a thing. I mean, when I coached at Woodson, it was a little bit of a thing.
Right.
I had no idea it would be this much of a thing.
It's a huge deal.
I mean, it was a huge deal.
Correct.
It was a huge thing. And it just took me kind of by surprise, you know, so all of a sudden, like, I got a substitute teacher for that day, and then there were 20 cameras in a room at Coolidge, and the mayor was coming, and there were about 50 other reporters standing in line to have 5 minutes with me.
Wow.
So it was definitely a whirlwind of an experience. Now I get to reflect and see how much it meant to people, as I still get notes.
Correct.
So that part of it was really nice. I didn't see it or really get to fully appreciate it then.
Correct. Because it's
but I
a
do
whirlwind.
now.
It
Right,
happens.
right.
You get swept up in it. I know that you and I were speaking, and in my research, we know that you interviewed with Robin Roberts. You met Roger Goodell. What was that experience like, knowing that football? I always speak to student athletes about the fact that sport can open doors for them. In many ways, this opened doors for you as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's humbling. You know, you just kind of have to sit back and take in what's happening in your life and kind of be grateful to the universe. Like, this is amazing.
Right.
And, you know, and then also seeing those great people from a different perspective. You see them in person as people rather than as, you know, these, you know, omnipotent beings on the TV.
That's a great SAT word for all of the kids out there watching. Omnipotent.
But you know, it's humbling.
Correct.
It just makes you stop and take pause and take it all in. So it was a great experience, and even now, like, I wouldn't be here now if it weren't for football and sports. And so I really harp with all of my students, like, take advantage of everything sports has to offer you, and don't let sports just use you.
Correct.
And spit you out. And you know that my kids know that's one of my passions, is to make sure that they take full advantage of the opportunities that they're given through their athletic ability.
Correct.
And really milk it for all that.
Take that ride and go with it. You use the word humility there, and I think that is an awesome, outstanding word to associate with yourself. In a lot of the research that I did up on you, I know that in some regard you were uncomfortable with so much of that spotlight being placed on you, as opposed to being placed on your student athletes. Talk to me about that. It
was very unnerving because you know, it was an odd situation, right? I'm a woman that's not very normal in terms of football, and these kids are in their senior and junior years of high school, and they're never going to get those years back. And then here I am, and all these cameras, you know, intruding on their high school experience. So my main concern was ensuring that they got to have as normal a high school athletic experience as possible, and if the hoopla was going to be there, it had to stay positive. So I was very, very vigilant about that.
Oh, good word. What steps did you take to ensure that was the case?
I know
it couldn't have been easy.
It wasn't. I mean, I had to scrutinize, you know, who we talked to. I had to be sure that I was available for the media, because, you know, if you're not available, they kind of tend to draw their own conclusions. So I was very, very aware of that. I had to do it all kind of by myself. You know, I was a classroom teacher, full-time science, you know, 2 preps, AP, all of that. So I had to kind of do it on the side. They would forward calls to me in my classroom, and I'm like, yeah, I'm teaching right now. I can't do an interview right now. Like, I need to call you back at 3:15. So I had to kind of juggle all of those things at once just to make sure that they were getting what they needed. And things that I could take advantage of in order to do things for the kids, I did, and things, you know, so I was able to make some partnerships to make things happen for the kids, so that was good. But it was definitely a balancing act, like constant.
Now, I know that at one point you made the statement that coaching was a happy accident for you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Because that's not a phrase that you would normally associate with such an accomplishment. Happy accident.
Well, I didn't really want to coach. I didn't, you know, once I left Woodson when they tore the tower down, I went to Coolidge. I was a teacher. I was fine as being a teacher. And then 2 years later, the coaching position came up, and the administration came to me. Right.
They offered you more than once.
And kind of asked, we want you to consider this. And I was like, no, you're crazy, you know. And they kept on it, and I was like, yeah, well, you do need other people to coach with you. You can't just coach football by yourself. They're like, oh, sure, you can get other people. And so I started, like, you know, asking friends, and they were all very excited, to my dismay, but they were excited about it. And then it was like, okay, I guess we're doing this.
There it is.
So it was a happy accident. I mean, I wouldn't take any of it back. I'm not sure I would go through it again. But I definitely relished, enjoyed
I love
Loved it.
I love it. I tell you what, I want to get into a couple of the more things that were challenging within that position, as well as move forward into your new position and all of the great things that you're doing now. Keep it locked right here. Chad Ricardo, Natalie Randolph. This is a DKN Sports Special. Now, Natalie, while you were at Coolidge, you accomplished a ton of things both on the football field and even more so in the classroom. It wasn't all butterflies and rainbows, though. We spoke a little bit about those challenges. In your opinion, what was the largest obstacles you had to overcome?
I think most of it was status quo cultural.
Okay.
You know, I was very adamant about academics first.
Right.
And I really didn't care. I told the kids, I was like, I don't care about football. Like,
Correct.
whatever.
You're trying to get them to another place.
Like, you are not going to be playing football after you're 23, most likely.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the rest of your life. And that, the kids were okay, sort of. But the adults didn't really like that approach.
You know, I'll tell
Some
you,
of the adults.
The funny thing about it, whether it's Clark Ray or another associate athletic director that I've had on the show, they say that the largest challenges facing student athletes are the parents so frequently, the adults in the room.
Yeah, I mean, adults are difficult. You know, kids, and I tell people this all the time, give me a 30 kids that don't want to hear anybody speak and I'm good to go. I'll shut the door, all the adults stay outside, and put me with adults, like it's challenging because everybody has their own view of the way things should be. There's a lot of DC pride, and I have DC pride too.
Correct.
But there's a lot of aversion to change and to learning more and to changing things to try to improve rather than, oh, it's working. If it's not broke, you know, don't fix it. But it's like, okay, it doesn't have to be broken, but we could be more efficient. We can improve.
We can make it better.
Yeah, so that was a little bit of a challenge. The kids kind of caught on. Like they wanted to play, so okay, I got to go to study hall to play, fine. You know, and then they were able to kind of see it differently. Of course, you have some that fought against it, and that's fine. I mean, that's to be expected. And some of the kids were very upfront and forward with it, which it was great.
I saw that, right.
The three actually that are closest to me, I tell them this all, you know, they know I tell this story all the time, but all three of them came to me like when I got the job and was like, okay, so you're a woman and I'm not sure. So like, why should I stay here? And I was like, well, sweetheart, you don't have to stay here. Like, this is your decision. This is your high school, you know, experience. I know it's going to be different.
Yes.
It's going to be different for me too, but I will work with you. And if you choose to say, great. If not, I love you still.
And the thing that I love about that is that you're able to have conversation, and through the conversation, growth occurred.
Yeah.
One of the things that, the beautiful things now is that you are in a position in which you can bring forth a lot of the change that you're looking for from the inside. I want to make sure that I get this straight. You are now the DCSAA Title IX Coordinator and Senior Women's Administrator. That's a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
What are your primary responsibilities within that role?
Primarily to bring DC athletic programs into compliance with Title IX and DC's local Title IX legislation, which are slightly different. And it's the local legislation is a data transparency regulation, so it requires athletic departments to submit a lot of data regarding their athletic program and how they are equitable by gender, race, and ethnicity, actually. That's one difference about our law than the federal law. So coaching them, building a data collection tool, which was difficult, but hopefully we got a little bit of a solution this year, and hopefully next year we'll get a better, more efficient solution. But there's a lot of data that's being submitted, and you know, But with that, we'll be able to analyze it and see where we are and kind of make recommendations for the future and figure out how to improve in a more targeted way. So that's my huge responsibility. Other things are to promote gender equity and to increase the number of girls that are participating in sports,
right? Which
starts at a younger age.
And that's important. I know that this is something that's extraordinarily important to Mayor Bowser, extraordinarily important to Clark Ray as well, extraordinarily important to you. Those numbers of female student athletes, they were lagging behind. What specifically do you all plan to do to help to get those back up to par?
One, getting the opportunities available in the schools, but most importantly, promoting their participation at a younger age. That's when they start. You know, if you try to wait and get them in 9th grade, it's not going to work. It's too late. So really trying to promote things like this year we had the National Girls and Women's in Sports Day Expo, where we had a whole bunch of little girls come and they got to try 16 different sports. So we hope to do that every year, and I'm always in contact with, you know, organizations that ask for help, you know, either promoting, like if I hear of an opportunity, I send it out to all the athletic directors, like here's something for your kids, trying to get the, you know, working with Department of Parks and Recreation a lot to get the younger girls involved in things, and just supporting. I mean, right now I've only been there since July, so the only concrete thing that we have is the National Girls and Women's Sports Day every year, but I really hope to make more partnerships as we go.
We're building. I'll get you out of here on this. It's been such, we could do this for an entire hour.
Yeah, it's fun.
The last question here. What do you see as being the most important part of your position? And then second part of that, 5 years from now, when people say Natalie Randolph, what do you want for them to think?
Those are tough.
You're on the Ricardo Report. This is how we do it here.
Ricardo, geez. No, most important for my position now, I know it's centered on gender equity.
Yes.
But I think I like to focus it on giving kids the most comprehensive opportunity towards sports possible. You know,
because
I think they all, because it's a vehicle, and really making sure that everybody gets to participate however they want to participate, and that experience for them is as best as it could be. So I think, and I know that's broad, but I think by focusing on gender equity, the data is going to help us focus on the entire athletic program, because the data they're submitting is not just for girls. So we'll be able to really look at that data and really make some informed decisions based on that. As for myself,
Natalie Randolph,
5
years from now,
that I care about kids. I mean, I don't want, you know, that's a big deal for me.
It's bigger than being a football coach. It's bigger than being...
Like, kids need an advocate. Kids need people to fight for them, and that's just what I want to do. So, yeah, it's not even anything specific, just to make sure the kids get what they need.
I love it. Natalie Randolph, thank you so very much. And thank you all for watching, hanging out with us. I'm Chad Ricardo, this is Natalie Randolph, and this has been a DKN Sports Special.